Good evening. David Jahn, your city forester. I'm going to jump off. The first presenter tonight was Phil Grushka from the Parks Conservancy, and he mentioned adaptive management. I'm going to jump off that statement and explain to you what we mean by adaptive management. It's a structured, iterative process of effective decision-making whose aim is to reduce uncertainty over time through thorough and active monitoring of information, accumulating data vital to improving future forest management, which is essentially learning by doing. It's establishing an ongoing feedback loop that enables us to achieve best forest practices. What does it allow us to do? First, it allows us to determine and provide effective and organized responses to the emerald ash borer and oak wilt threats that now confront us. Allows us to responsibly implement effective actions to mitigate the losses. It allows us to communicate clearly these actions to the citizens of Pittsburgh and to our responders to these threats. It also allows us to review and update the effectiveness of the responses and modify that action as new information and research becomes available. So what are the end goals of that adaptive forest management process? Goal number one, first, last, and always, as a city entity, we always concern ourselves with the safety of our citizens. That includes persons, structures, utilities, and rights of way. Second, we want to guard our trees from mortality, guard our forests from invasive pests and plants, guard our soils from water and wind erosion, guard our streams and rivers from buildup of sediment due to lost forest canopy, guard against landslides. This is a photograph from Washington State. This all used to be forested just like this and down low. This whole section up here was cleared, and the result was a landslide. I didn't come across any newer data. There probably is some, but the data I came across was 1986. And the study showed that just within Allegheny County, we had 700 recent and current landslides. So we're definitely in a landslide zone. The dark red on the, or bright red on the map shows that we're attached to an area of high landslide incidence. And so the danger we face if we start losing tens of thousands of trees, I haven't yet begun to wrap my mind around the possibility that we may begin to lose hundreds of thousands of ash trees. I'm still having trouble wrapping my mind around this whole concept of losing so much forest at one time. But landslide incidence is a high possibility when we start losing that many trees from our hillsides. No trees means loss of valuable soil. No trees also means that the water gets farther into the soil and creates a load that the soil can't bear, and that's what kicks it out into a landslide. The preferred scenario is when you have this precipitation that comes down from the sky. It's intercepted first of all by the tree canopy. You get some through fall, which then in turn falls on your understory trees or shrubs and your leaf litter. And even at that, you're still getting some interception and evaporation from the ground and from your understory. That's the better scenario. And here's the result then. So you get all this water either being used by the canopy itself or evaporating upwards. And so your net rainfall entering the soil is considerably less than what fell from the sky to begin with. So we've set about establishing an action plan. On November 18 of last year, there was an all-day field tour and fact-gathering session. Invited guests included our three speakers tonight, Dr. McDonald, Dr. Carson, and Mr. Schmidt, as well as other visiting scholars and forestry professionals. Over the following month, the Parks Conservancy took the lead in developing the written framework for the action plan that we want to present to the public in the near future. And this process will continue until we are able to publish and distribute that data. Then in January of this year, there was a meeting with a large group of local partner agencies who helped to further develop the plan. And this list was shown to you earlier when Marty Eisler was introducing, but I want to reiterate the list because all these partners are so important to us. City of Pittsburgh, Allegheny Commons Initiative, Mount Washington Community Development Corporation, 9 Mile Run Watershed Association, Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Penn State Cooperative Extension, Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium, Pittsburgh Shade Tree Commission, Tree Pittsburgh, and the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy. And I want to say a special thank you tonight to Meg Cheever and all of her staff at the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy for lighting the fire under the topic and the action plan and spurring us forward. So now I'm going to start to talk a little bit about some of the projects, both with oak. Well, we've had projects with oak wilt to date. We've not yet had projects with emerald ash borer, and we are so much on the cusp of having to deal with that. We will have mortality this very year, and it's not going to be a pretty picture. But we'll start with the oak wilt picture. That little blue dot up there. So above that would be Point Breeze, and down here would be the Regent Square area. Attached to Frick Park. So in that little section there, that amounted to 1.75 acres. It was our first venture into managing oak wilt. The dotted line encompasses that area. We started by root pruning. You saw that in an earlier slide from Dr. McDonald. We got some Texas size instruments up here too, just the cutting blade is a little different size. But we cut the roots between the trees, so the trees in the foreground are the ones we're keeping. The trees in the background are the trees in the foreground in this case are the ones we're cutting down, and the trees behind, like this one that's marked, will be treated. They're outside the cut zone. They're being treated with the fungicide to prevent it from getting the disease. And this is what the trench looked like when it was completed. Then large-scale tree cutting equipment came in and took down trees from that 1.75 acres. This slide you've seen before. We treated 44 trees in Frick Park with propiconazole or Alamo, the fungicide to prevent oak wilt incidents. And unfortunately, there was the finished product. This was kind of a clear-cut project because 90+% of the trees in the patch were oak, and 75 or 80% of the project was on a plateau where we didn't have major erosion issues, so we took opportunity to take everything out that was oak so that we wouldn't have to go back on a second treatment. We're going to have a different scenario play out at Highland Park a little later in the same year last year. There's your zone up there. This patch was first brought to my attention by Matt Erb, the Director of Urban Forestry at Tree Pittsburgh. He was coming across the Highland Park Bridge from Aspinwall, looked up to the left, and saw all these naked trees inside a fully foliated forest. So we discovered we had another 1.75 acre patch of oak wilt up there that we managed, but a little differently. Because of the steep grade running down to Butler Street, we elected to keep the invasives. The Norway maples we left on site to allow the root zones to keep the hillside intact. We also installed the erosion sock. And then a third project last year was in Riverview Park. We had no less than 6 sites, but they were all smaller in scope. We're going to turn our attention a little bit now to street trees. This is a full city map showing street trees from our Tree Keeper inventory program. We only have 1,700 plus oaks on city streets, and so we're fairly confident that we'll be able to manage oak wilt there. The caveat to that is we've got an awful lot of oaks in the eastern part of the city. You know, Squirrel Hill up through Point Breeze, up through Morningside, etc. And so anywhere we've got monoculture, in other words, oak after oak after oak, that's where we're going to have the greatest difficulty. You saw us doing the root pruning in a forested area. That was a slam dunk. We have yet to try to do root pruning in a 3 or 4 foot wide planting pit. We don't know how that's going to work, quite frankly. For the ash, kind of now talking about the oak wilt or the emerald ash borer, we've only got 387 ash trees citywide. Those are street trees, not the parks trees. Phil has already mentioned that we have approximately 60,000 ash trees in our 4 rad parks. Here's the big question, and we won't know until we get some spectral analysis done that will show us through color coding where we have ash trees within the city limits. The guess between 200,000 to 300,000 all the way up to 500,000 ash trees, it's in that range. We don't know where we're going to end up with that yet, but that is the total ash population that we currently stand to lose in its entirety if we do nothing, and the options for doing something will be limited by money. So the highlights of our action plan, as I said, public safety first. So any trees that are a danger next to right-of-way, persons, and structures, those trees will come down. Couldn't think of a better slogan, but it still says it all. Prevention beats catastrophe. The emerald ash borer infested trees, our first goal there, and we're working on this now, is to assess the health of ash trees, known ash trees. Until we learn the full scope of how many ash trees overall, we're assessing the health of ash trees that we do know and trying to establish the quantity that we will try to save. And our chosen method at this point, a trade name TREE-äge, the active ingredient is emamectin benzoate. And that, I have to tell you, this is an eternal process. There's no known curative against emerald ash borer at this point. So we can get up to 3 years before the next injection. But it is very non-invasive. You can drill a simple little hole in there, and it's got a diaphragm similar to putting a hypodermic in someone, in the bottle before you get it in the arm. And when you pull the hypodermic out, the bottle's self-sealing. So it's a very safe process that we would be using, and a very good kill rate on the insect. Why are we so concerned with emerald ash borer? First of all, there's the safety impact of dead ash trees in high, moderate, and low use areas. It's going to be significant to manage with respect to all of these items: budget, operations, and removal logistics. First of all, I can't wrap my mind around the possible number we'll have to contend with. So once I know the number, then I'll have to wrap my mind around how we're going to deal with that many tens or hundreds of thousands. Second, the overall budget consequences will be extremely significant with respect to each aspect of a management plan, including survey planning, removal, treatment, replanting, managing until established. The tree population structure of our forest will be changed dramatically. I think our urban population consists of 16%. Is that the number of native trees that are ash composed, Phil?
Yeah, 15.
All right, so we could lose 15 to 16% of our native trees. Well, what does that say? Well, it says a lot when you consider how many invasive trees we have on our city lands. Some of our parks contain vast quantities of Norway maple and ailanthus. So we're going to change our forest. We're going to alter habitats, niches, and populations of numerous animal species. These losses are going to be extremely visible. Citizens will see mortality. They'll see trees falling apart. Our intent is to remove infested trees as early and as quickly as possible. These removals will have a hefty price tag. We are currently reviewing known data to determine how many trees we will try to save, which also has a cost attached to it, and how many thousands, tens of thousands, etc., of removals we're going to manage. With respect to oak wilt infested trees, we think we have the correct mitigation strategy that I just showed you. it's going to remain the same, but we need a quicker notification and response time. If we were to find the same patch of trees at an earlier point in time and manage it immediately, this would be the mortality. The trees that are infected will take out a little buffer zone. So if you had 2 trees infected, you might only impact 6 or 8 trees instead of over 100 trees in that patch. So we're going to be very vigilant about identifying oak wilt patches early on. So in summary, reduce and mitigate the disruption of city forests and open space trees by proactively employing best management practices, actions, and data in an organized, cost-effective manner that minimizes the threat to public safety and to the benefits that the trees provide. Mitigate budget and service impact by distributing treatment, removal, and replacement costs over a manageable period of time. Reduce the impact of tree losses with a large-scale, very large-scale replanting program of a variety of suitable species during the phased treatment and removal process. Develop and distribute to staff and the public clear communications on the management and response strategy for emerald ash borer and oak wilt. And of course, we're going to enlist your help. We need all community eyes on the problem, reporting outbreaks to 311. We need the ambitious support of our partner organization with respect to educating the public and their clientele on how to recognize these disease and insect issues and who to report to. We need outside-the-box thinking by city government to increase funding and personnel. And we need immediate funding by other donors to make sure our efforts are timely. I don't want to be alarmist, but I'm going to be alarmist. This may be one of those bellwether times in our society, in our region, when what we plan to do now will greatly impact not just us, but our children and our children's children. We're going to look back someday and say, did we do the right thing or did we not do enough? So I simply say this in closing: if we and our forests hope to grow old together, we got to do a good job, whatever we do. Thank you.